everyone, welcome to DevOps Info Channel. Today we are going to take a look at how to get started with the passwordless authentication in the Azure Active Directory environment. For enterprises that is using passwords today, they have some password security enforcements like having a banned password list, blocking the reuse passwords, stopping some predictable easy passwords, and also they have second factor authentication by having MFA enabled on all the accounts. This is a really a good way to protect all your accounts by having MFA. Then it's by having MFA and the context switch approvals, then it is ensure that the accounts are fully secured and the possibility of compromise is really very low. However, when you have a shared PC environment for few business cases, then using the passwordless authentication mechanism via the FIDO keys provides a better security to the IT infrastructure. Passwordless authentication methods are more convenient because the password is completely removed for the users and it is replaced with something you have plus something you are. So in that case, it's easy for the users not to remember the passwords and they can authenticate and access the applications. So today in this video, we'll be focusing on enabling the passwordless authentication and seeing an example of the passwordless authentication via the Microsoft Authenticator app. So there are ways to enable the passwordless authentication for your cloud resources and also extend them possibly to your on-premise resources when you have the Azure Active Directory in your environment. So this passwordless authentication functionality provides a seamless single sign-on to your on-premise resources as well as your cloud resources with Microsoft compatible security keys or any trusted platform modules. We'll take a look at them in a few minutes. So this helps you in using the power of the cloud authentication without the need of investing on any kind of extra expensive on-premise infrastructure in your environment for going with the passwordless authentication because Azure AD has this capability. So going with a little bit of information, so this passwordless authentication can be used with all these resources what you have because for example if you have a FIDO keys this is a kind of a trusted platform module which you can use to use a passwordless authentication. So before we proceed further, I would like to give you a small information of what is FIDO because passwordless authentication came through alliance called FIDO because FIDO stands for Fast Identity Online. So this Fast Identity Online Alliance was formed in July 2012 to address the lack of interoperability among the strong authentication technologies. And they wanted to create a kind of a passwordless authentication without the users remembering multiple usernames and password. Excuse me. So the FIDO supports a full range of authentication technologies, as you see in the screen right now, including the biometrics such as fingerprints and IRIS scanners, voice as well as the facial recognition. So with the trusted platform modules, for example, you can use your USB security tokens, which are the FIDO keys, which is available from the lot of vendors. So by using this FIDO keys, the device will be used to authenticate using a simple password, example, a four-digit PIN, or by pressing a button. So when you do this, then this gives you a device-centric model, and then the authentication happens using a public key cryptography. So it's simply uses an asymmetric algorithm, and then it uses the public key cryptography, and the authentication happens over the wire. So which is really good if you're using the trusted platform module and you can use the FIDO keys and do that. Uh, let's say if you want to use any existing uh, computing, that is also supported because Microsoft has enabled this option through the Windows Hello. So with the Windows Hello, what you can do is simply you can use your existing camera or the fingerprint sensor in your laptop. Then if it supports the FIDO authentication, then the existing computing platform itself has the built-in mechanism. And the Windows Hello is the method that is used to deliver the FIDO credentials to your laptop. So the fingerprint readers, the local cameras, and also even the local pins that can be used. So it basically uses a web authentication, and the credentials are just sent to the applications, sent to the devices. So so in this case, you already have the FIDO authenticator already on your machine, and also a FIDO capable camera. So that's the easiest way if you want to enable the FIDO authenticator. Or just in case, if you don't want to use a trusted platform module, you can always use the MFA app, because Microsoft has brought this functionality with Microsoft Authenticator method. You can manage the traditional push of the MFA, which is with the second factor authentication, or you can even use the passwordless authentication method. So that we will take a look at in this video today. So a little bit of information about the FIDO, about the FIDO, the fast identity online. During the registration, it creates an asymmetric keypad, and this keypad is stored, the private keys is stored in a secure way, and only the relaying party trust, which verifies your identity. It is done through the public key credentials. So in all the ways, the private keys is kept safe. So it uses an asymmetric algorithm to complete this passwordless authentication. Um, and going forward with this FIDO, there are two types of authentication. The first one, they call it as W3C. That's the W3C is the web authentication, which is come from the World Wide Web Consortium. So this is simply a JavaScript API that allows the remote website to ask for a public key credentials. So it's a browser platform standard that supports this mechanism. So in our case, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge browsers, and Apple Safari and Preview browsers. I'm not sure if it has gone general. All these browsers support the passwordless authentication. It is already supported from Windows 10 versions, and also in Android. So this passwordless authentication is basically browser based if you are using W3C web authentication. And the second type of the authentication from the FIDO is it's something called client to authenticator protocol specification. That's completely coming from the FIDO Alliance itself. So the FIDO Alliance itself is having a type called client to authenticator protocol. This will allow a platform to negotiate over a transport, like USB, NFC, or anything sorry, it's only USB NFC, and also it's a BLE that is somehow connected with the authenticator. So the client to authenticator protocols or FIDO to Alliance specifications describing like how an application, that is the browser and the operating systems, establish a communication with the compliant authentication device. Uh, so basically, the credentials in FIDO2 instead of a form-based authentication, because previously when we used the password, like a username and the password, uh, like the user, for example, when he accesses a website, he gets a form-based authentication where he needs to key in the username and password. But here it calls a JavaScript API, which is offered through the browser web authentication API. So all the browsers today, the modern browsers, as you stated earlier, the Chrome, the Microsoft Edge, Safari, they all support this type of passwordless authentication. So going a little bit further, I wanted to show this is the Fido, an example of this is the website of Fido, who they found it and brought this. And they worked together with Microsoft, and they have built this passwordless authentication mechanism. It's a combined it's a combined work together with Microsoft, who has also invested a lot and then brought this kind of mechanism to the users. So if you take a look at this, if you take a look at the image that they have mentioned, yeah, this is the one. Like FIDO2 brings a simple and stronger authentication to web browsers. And then the whatever X explain, so you can use what is the existing TPM you have on your PC if it's supported, or else you can just simply use your device. So this is how the Fido came into the existence. Okay, going further, let's see how to enable this for the Authenticator app, because we can talk a lot about how to extend this to on-premise and a little bit about the FIDO, but we will take a look at in the upcoming videos. But today we will see how to enable FIDO through the Authenticator app for the end users. So here, what you need to do is you just need to go into your Azure Azure Active Directory, and then you just go into the security, and in the authentication methods, you have something called Microsoft Authenticator. So in the Microsoft Authenticator, if you have enabled it for all users, then you see an option, the authentication mode. This is very important. In the authentication mode, you have two options, three options: passwordless, push, and any. The moment when you select any, so then the users are given an option to use a push notification, that is the second factor authentication, when they use the username and the password. And the second one is the passwordless. So when you go with the any, then in this case, the users who was targeted, it's a group or everyone who would be able to use the file, who would be able to use the passwordless authentication via the Authenticator app. So, uh, in my case, I have already enabled one of the test users uh, uh, to uh, to try for the FIDO authentication via the Authenticator app. Let's take a look at how it is working. So I'm just going to one of the user over here, the browser, and then I'm going to log in into the user account. So I'm just trying to access office.com. And the moment when I access office.com, yeah, I wanted to sign in. So I accept the cookies and I'm going to sign in. In the sign in, yeah, it's going to ask. I'm just typing the test user. He is Glenn Richard. The moment when I click on next, yeah, you see, I've never asked for any kind of a password, because I've just prompted open your authenticator app and enter the number to show signing. So here I just enter the number and then enter, you'll be logged in. And you also see at the bottom, there is an option to use your password instead, but we're not going to use that. I'm just clicking on yes. The moment when you do that, the user is logged in, and that's it. So here, the user would be able to log in into the Office 365 apps without using the password. But one thing you need to keep in mind, if you want to extend this passwordless authentication to your applications, which is registered in Azure AD, or even which is present in on-premise, there are few steps we need to do, because for the application, uh, your application needs to support the W3 web authentication, because that's the backend which is supporting the passwordless authentication. So your application needs to be capable of supporting the authentication method, web authentication W3C. so that it can, the JavaScript API allows the remote website to ask for the public key credentials. So your application needs to be compatible for the passwordless authentication, the first thing. And if you want to extend this to on-premise application, there are a few steps which you need to do. You need to extend your Azure AD Kerbos towards the toward, towards the on-premise Active Directory, but we will look at do it on the upcoming video, because that has some little bit of steps that you need to do for extending it to your on-premise applications. So we'll have a separate video. Okay, so we have it logged in without the password, which is good. And also there is a few things which I wanted to show you, just in case if you wanted to know how many users are using the passwordless authentication. All you need to do is simply come into the authentication methods, and then you just click on the authentication methods once again, and you have something called user registration details. The moment when you click on the user registration details, you will have the passwordless capability. So here, if you see the passwordless capability, one of my test user is Glenn Richard, and he is passwordless capable. And the default authentication method is mobile phone. I could confirm this way. If you want to get more information, there is also a easier way. What you can do is you can go into the log analytics of your Azure Active Directory, and then there is a query which you could run just to look for the authentication method used by the FIDO security key, or authentication method used by the passwordless phone signing. In my case, I have already run that query, so you could see the user, where if I scroll up, yeah, the user is Glenn Richard, the location is NL, it's even telling the location. And if you scroll down, it says the authentication method, he's used the passwordless phone sign-in, and the authentication step required the primary authentication and the user approved, which is really good. We would be able to identify also the number of users who has been utilizing the passwordless authentication in your environment. So overall, I would say the passwordless authentication is really a good option that you can utilize in your environment, especially for shared PC environment, and also there might be a few business cases where people are using shared PCs. In that case, you can use the authentication mechanism via FIDO keys. That would provide a better security to the IT infrastructure. Also, the passwordless authentication are more convenient because the password is completely removed, and it can be enabled with strong security measures, whatever we see. That's what I wanted to talk you. I wanted to inform about the passwordless authentication, how to get started with it, and then how you can view the passwordless authentication utilization. Uh, Hopefully, we would be able to see one more series of video about a few more things that we need to take into consideration for the passwordless authentication, and then we will conclude it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you.